Hey, fourth graders. Today's learning target is I can identify the 9 sovereign tribal nations of Oregon and explain a few facts about who they are. Here's some vocabulary to review. My turn, your turn. Social studies, your turn. The studies, history and geography, that deal with human relationships and the way society works. People living together. My turn, your turn. Ancestor. A person you are related to and who lived many, many years ago. Usually not your parents or grandparents, but before that. My turn, your turn. Culture. Culture is a pattern of behavior shared by a group of people. Many different things make up culture. These things include food, language, clothing, music, holidays, and religion. My turn, your turn. Immemorial. From the distant past, very old. Time immemorial is a phrase meaning time extended beyond the reach of memory, record, or tradition. My turn, your turn. Ethnic group, people group. A group of people who share a common background and language. They also share holidays, clothing, and foods, and are from a specific place in the world. My turn, your turn. Sovereign nation. In charge of itself. Independent nation or country, not controlled by another country or person. My turn, your turn. Confederated. Joined together or united in a group. My turn, your turn. Manifest destiny. The 19th century idea that the expansion of the U.S. throughout the American continent was both justified and inevitable. My turn, your turn. Indigenous. Originating or occurring naturally in a particular place. Native. My turn, your turn. Survivance. Survivance is an active sense of presence, the continuance of native stories, culture, religion, music, holidays. The story of the West. The story of the American West, the Oregon Trail and Lewis and Clark, has typically been told from a white settler's perspective. How might that history look from the perspective of Native Indians, whose ancestors were here for thousands of years before the settlers arrived? Time immemorial. Native Americans in Oregon. These first Oregonians have lived in villages by our lakes, rivers, and coastlines for over 12,000 years. For thousands of years, tribes and tribal people have raised their children, gathered for ceremonies, buried their dead, respected their sacred sites, explored and roamed these lands to hunt, fish, and collect roots, berries, and other cultural resources. Mary Bradford, a basket maker, a member of the Rogue River tribe, 1902. Since time immemorial, oral traditions or stories told of tribes maintain teachings that indigenous people were created here and have existed here since time immemorial, from the coast to the valleys, to the plateau and to the Great Basin. Tribal peoples have maintained balanced relationships with land and water. Oregon is Native American country. Europeans arrive. It's thought that when the Europeans arrived in the 1500s, there were 10 million Native Americans living in what is now the United States. Some of the major tribes of Oregon included the Nez Perce, the Chinook, the Klamath, the Paiute, the Molalla, and the Cayuse. These tribes lived in cedar wood plank houses and used dugout canoes to travel the waterways. Many of them fished as the primary source of food. All of the tribes had a shared belief in the power of spirits. They thought that spirits were found in nature, and they only took from nature what they absolutely needed. They did not think that people could own land. Instead, it was shared by all, and they were temporary caretakers of it. Weather conditions played a big part in the lifestyle of Native Americans in Oregon. The cool coastal forest gave Oregon coast tribes much of what they needed. The large amount of spruce and cedar trees offered the ability to create large canoes, with the biggest fitting up to 30 people. These groups were hunter-gatherers, using their boats to hunt a lot of the sea life, including whales, seals, and otters. The native freshwater salmon were a major part of their diet and was so important that they had special ceremonies for when the salmon returned from the ocean to spawn. Oregon became a state on February 14, 1859. When gold was discovered in the 1850s, even more people moved to Oregon. There was less and less land for the Native Americans. Nez Perce. Tribes such as the Nez Perce were forced to move into smaller and smaller reservations. In 1863, gold was discovered on the Nez Perce Reservation. They were told they would have to move again. After a small fight erupted in 1877, the Nez Perce, under the leadership of Chief Joseph, tried to flee to Canada. The U.S. Army pursued them. They fought the Army all along the way, engaging in several battles along their 1,400-mile retreat. These battles are called the Nez Perce War. In the end, the Nez Perce lost and were forced to move to Indian Territory in Oklahoma. This map includes outlines and labels that reveal the existence of the many indigenous people groups in the region of Oregon. As this map shows, the area we now call Oregon was home to many people groups whose sovereignty and home regions were fully known to the U.S. government long before it claimed the land. Let's learn about the indigenous people who still live in Oregon and about the legal and formal relationship they have with the U.S. government. There are 9 confederated tribes in Oregon, tribes joined together. One of them is called the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. There is also the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians, the Confederated Tribes of Coos Lower Umpqua Sisla, the Coquille Indian Tribe, the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians, the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, the Klamath Tribes, Klamath, Modoc, Yahuskin, Confederated Tribes of Umatilla Indian Reservation, Burns Paiute. There are 9 federally recognized Oregon tribes today that I just named in Oregon. They are called the Confederate Tribes of, and as I just mentioned, Grand Ronde, Siletz, Coos Lower Umpqua Sisla, Coquille, Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe, Klamath, Warm Springs, Burns Paiute, and Umatilla. These 9 federally recognized tribes have a number of tribes joined together in each 9 of these tribes to form one confederated or united tribe. The indigenous people that have lived in the land that is now the United States since time immemorial have an inherent right to be in charge of their nations. Sovereign nations have a relationship with the United States in that they are independent nations that exist within the borders of the current United States. The story of Oregon tribes is marked by survivance. The U.S. government broke numerous promises over the past 150 years to Native Americans and did not treat them fairly. Native tribes are now sovereign nations in the United States. All right, we're ready to move on to watch a movie and then do our assignment.